Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host for the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. Oh, yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to A Little Less Fear podcast. I'd like to introduce our next guest. Her name is Amy Dehne. Did I say your name correct?
No, but that's okay. It's Dehne.
Oh my gosh. Amy Dehne. Well, Dehne is spelled D-E-H-N-E. I've never seen it, but that's awesome, and thank you so much for correcting me. Amy Dehne, she's a business coach who supports moms in living a meaningful and purposeful life while also caring for their families. Amy feels that mothers who are inspired, fulfilled, joyful, and living a life of purpose while also being wholeheartedly engaged as a parent are changing the story for moms. When she's not mentoring moms to get paid to bring their creativity to the world, you can find her dancing in the kitchen with her kiddos, going on epic adventures, both with and without the kids, finding ways to exercise in stolen moments, and teaching her husband how to make the perfect cup of coffee. That's not easy, by the way.
That's not easy.
Welcome to A Little Less Fear podcast, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me, Lino. I'm so happy to be here. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. So tell us about your journey. What brought you to where you are at today?
Oh my gosh, Lino, how do you answer that question? You did such a good job, sharing with me your story, and I wish mine was so succinct. I guess I'll start from really what got me into why I love business so much and really what that journey was like for me and why specifically I work with moms. Yes. So when I first had my very first baby, I don't think I really understood having children is not in the realm of language. It doesn't matter how many books you read, how many experiences people tell you about. The transition when you have children is not that realm. It's not in an explanation. It's in an experience, and it's an embodied experience. And for me, I struggled really hard when I first had my babies. And it wasn't because it was just post-traumatic stress. Postpartum. I really struggled with giving up my career. And I'm such an extrovert and I love working in the community. I work for not-for-profits. I really believe in purposeful work. And I live in Canada. I'm lucky enough to live in Canada, and we get a really long maternity leave. So we're on maternity leave for 12 to 18 months.
Wow.
Paid. And so it gave me an opportunity to be with my children, which was amazing. I wanted to be with them. I wanted to help raise them. And I really struggled. And so when I was sitting at home with my babies, my husband was starting his own business. He was starting an electrical contracting company. He's an electrician. And I found myself becoming very envious and very resentful to him that he was going out. He got to go out every day and work on this business and bring his purpose to the world. Well, I was feeling really isolated and stuck at home. And I was feeling like I was doing the hardest transition job. I was transitioning from no kids to kids all by myself behind four walls. My husband would go to work and I'd be home with my children. And I'm like, hold on a second. I do not believe in my bones, as a human being, that we are supposed to be raising our children alone. I was like, this is not normal. I was like, I just knew that in myself. And so I really struggled with that. And as that was happening, my husband, I'd be sitting breastfeeding from the couch. My husband would be on these phone calls, working late into the night. And I'd be like an armchair business expert. I'd be like, what if we tried this? And what if we tried this? And what if as an electrical contracting company, we could change the way that the trades were done? What if we were giving, our employees unlimited, unpaid, no questions asked days off? What if we were hiring women? What if we were, what if we had a really powerful diversity and inclusion policy at a company? Because that is not typical in the trades, Mm-hmm. What if people took a sick day? And so I was putting all of these ideas into the space, and I was helping to build my husband's really successful. We just hit $1 million this year, this $1 million business. And I know a lot about business, just being in the trenches with him. And so after, my babies got older and they started, going into school, I started having much more space and time. And what I realized that I struggled finding out so now what? What's next for me? I don't know what's next. And I think this is a very common experience. What happens after our babies get older and, we've given up so much of ourselves And now our kids are gone. And now we're like, what do we want to do now? And so I was really like stuck in this place. And it was hard. It was a challenging place to be in my head. Cause I'm like, I want to like contribute financially to my family. I want to like do something that feels purposeful. I want to like leave a legacy. And I want to make sure that what I'm saying right now isn't landing as I don't care about my kids or I don't love them. It's not
Oh
that
no, I don't feel that.
Yeah, it's really that like I needed something for me that was outside of just like, wiping poopy bums and cleaning up, puke and stuff. And so I started coaching. I started doing business coaching because I know it so well and I love people. And what I care about even more, like what's underneath the coaching for me, is moms having an opportunity to have something creative and meaningful outside of just raising their families. Yes. And that part's really important because what I believe is that if we can look after ourselves as a parent and as a mother, if we can like do something that's creative and lights us up and has us like really doing something that makes us feel alive, and we're bringing that energy back to our children and we're bringing that energy back to our family, you know, because if not, children are like talking about the realm of language. Children exist in energy. They don't necessarily exist in language. If you say something to a kid, they don't get it. They're like, okay, sure, whatever. But they feel the energy in the space.
Absolutely.
So if like if I'm energetic feeling like this is the worst, I really don't like this, they're picking up on that. But if I can bring something back to them, it's like, I am like really happy that I get to raise you and do something meaningful for me that contributes financially to my family. Like that to me really matters. And that matters a lot for me. And so helping moms being able to figure out how to get their business off the ground in a way that gets them to be paid, because the online world is an incredibly competitive place, especially now after COVID. And so I really help them work through that. And I even more than that, what I really care a lot about is moms working together with other moms. So bringing women together and forming a bond and not having to do it alone, because it goes from us raising our children behind four walls to us being in front of our computer behind four walls by ourselves. And I'm like, what if we could actually do that together? So I run a lot of groups of moms coming together. It's called the Wolf Pack, where we come together.
The Wolf Pack? That's amazing.
And it's about us, like, doing our businesses. So we don't have to, I call it for wild women that don't want to do business alone. And so, so that's my journey. That's kind of like what got me to where I'm at right now. And, and I want to say that it's not perfect. I don't have it all figured out, but that's just like where I am right now.
And how's it going for you right now? When did you actually start it?
So I started this rendition of my business. I've been in business for a long time. This is like my third business. This business I've been doing for 2 years now. And it's going great. It's like, it's been evolving and it's changing. And I'm realizing that I really love the connections between other people. My zone of genius is bringing people together and like having an opportunity for us to share vulnerably and authentically, because as business owners, we can't talk about our shit and our stuff with like our clients or with our employees. Mm-hmm. There's stuff that goes on for us that we need to be able to talk about with our peers, with the other people that are going through it together. Yes. And so it really creates the opportunity for us to be able to not feel so alone in our businesses.
So what do you and the Wolf Pack do together when you do get together? Do you meet through Zoom? I mean, I'm assuming there's women from all over the world that are involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we do 3 things. I have a Facebook group where we meet. So that's just like, an entry level people like, I'm not quite sure, an opportunity to engage. We also do an online Zoom meeting. So it's another rendition of it. We get together every week on Zoom and we're working through stuff, but it's really more about the connection and the bonding and like being able to like talk to each other about like what our struggles are and getting support. And then I run in-person retreats. So people come together and it's all adventure based. So it's all based in the outdoors and in nature. And we have an opportunity to be outside and immerse in nature while we're like thinking and exploring our businesses.
And that's really important because it's actually the beauty of nature and just the divine, I'm very spiritual. So whenever I think of nature, I just think of how I feel when I'm in nature. And I just feel like I'm connected. So if you're getting a wolf pack together in nature, I mean, the connectivity is probably supercharged.
It's supercharged. It's super amazing. It is a spiritual experience. And also the thing that's really important about nature is it pulls us out of our day to day. You know how we get into our day to day and we're doing the things and we think about the same things and we're seeing the world through our day to day lens. Yeah. By getting out into nature and pulling us into a different experience, it drops it drops the shield. It drops this like identity, and it all kind of puts us on a similar playing field. So it's no longer about me being a doctor or a lawyer and me only being like a convenience clerk. It actually has us operating on the same level, and that's really, really important. And then from that place, we can get to work.
Because then from that place, you can all open up creativity.
Exactly. And the spiritual connection that you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's really what creativity is. It's
exactly.
Yeah, it's connection with the divine. That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of like my story, and that's what I love to do, and that's what I'm here to do. So
I feel like you have discovered your life purpose.
Well, what's interesting about me is that my life's purpose really is about like instilling it's like I'm kind of like the master in the art of living. Like that's like really like what I'm here to do is like I really help people take away the seriousness and the overwhelm, and and show people that life doesn't have to be such a burden. Like that's my purpose.
I love that.
And what I do is always going to change, because right now this is what I'm interested in, but I promise you in like probably 2 to 3 years, I will be evolving it and changing it and doing something.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, like, how do you think you will feel once your kids are, like, fully grown up? Do you think you'll still be involved with this wolf pack, or do you think that it's going to lead you to a different type of business endeavor?
100% is going to lead me to something. It's like I kind of consider myself, and that's the thing, Lino, I want to like share, is like that's been a big struggle for me. Like in this like context, this conversation we're having about career, is that like we've been raised in the system that's like you do the thing. So you go to school, which is training you to think in a way. Then you go to high school when you're like 17, 18, you're like, okay, so who do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, I'm a 17-year-old.
Right.
And then you go to university, because that's what you do, because that's like what makes you successful. And then you go and you're like, shit, I'm like, okay, so now I'm doing this thing. I don't really know if I like it, but that's what you're supposed to do. And then you get the house, and you get the kids, and you get the car, then you get the husband or the wife. And then you're like, hold on.
Now what?
Now what? Right. And so when people are like, so what do you do for a living? I'm like, that is such a complicated question, because right now what I'm doing is I'm like working with moms. And they're like, what does that mean? And so it's a complicated question. It's always evolving and changing. And I'm never going to be a master of one thing. I'm going to be like a Jill of all trades.
I love it. An Amy of all trades.
Yeah, exactly.
So Amy, what do your kids think about this? This awesome career that you've built? Because I just like, whenever I think of, so check it out. I've gone through a lot of stuff in my life with illness and stuff. And I remember looking at a lot of my doctors and thinking like, man, how are they mothers, and how are they surgeons, and how do they have time for the kids, and what do the kids think of them being so busy, and do the kids ever get to spend time with their mother? I mean, I guess in this case they get to spend time with you because you're working from home, and you're also setting a good example on how to juggle things differently in life, especially in this new time of age.
Totally. And that's like another thing, like as I'm sitting there breastfeeding my children, I'm like, I want to raise my kids. I don't want daycare raising my children. Now just looking at my own personal experience. So for me, it wasn't my children's fault, the reason I wasn't working. It was a personal decision that I made to be like, I want to raise them, right? Yes. And so I want to be home for them. And I've created a life versus life choosing me. So versus like life and in our cultural narrative telling me how it's going to go. I've very intentionally said, hold on a second. I don't necessarily need to choose that. I'm privileged enough. I'm like a white woman in Canada. I'm privileged enough to be in a position where I can say, you know what? I don't want to choose that. I'm not going to follow the path. I'm not going to follow the status quo. I'm going to intentionally create my life, which means I want to be home when my kids get home from school. I want to be able to drop them off. I want to be able to take them to their field trips. I want to be present for them, when they're doing and sitting down at dinner every day. So it's been a very intentional decision that has come at like an internal battle cost of like, okay, so how do I monetize my life then? How do I make it so that my life can pay for itself and still me doing the things that I care about and me not getting lost in work? And so to come full circle, that is like, that's why I want to work with moms, to help them find their businesses so that they can be present to their families.
I love how what you're doing is you're like changing the story of like what a mom is supposed to be like, because it seems like Even growing up with my mom, it was like either you work part-time or you're there, full-time with your kids. And we had difficult times with abusive babysitters growing up. So my mother just basically left her career to be a full-time mom. And I can honestly say I don't think she was happy just being a mom, cooking and cleaning, cooking and cleaning, cooking and cleaning. And I feel that had she had the tools that you have now, but that was a whole other time. I mean, she's 72 now, I feel that women back then maybe would have had a different role than what they do now. Are you seeing this evolution with mothers happening right now, or is this something new in the works?
Oh my gosh. This is the thing. Like, my mother's story and her mother's story, her times were completely different. Her times to be able to do what I'm doing now was unheard of.
Yeah,
Their times didn't allow for it.
not at
Not
all.
in the same way. You had to be a rebel and be willing to be ostracized from everything that you knew
Oh, yeah.
to be your stability in order to do the work that I'm doing, even to do the work that you're doing right now, you know?
Yeah.
And so we are like living. So this is the thing that, sometimes I'm so cognizant of. It's like our time is now ready for this. Our
Yeah.
times are ready for this stuff. And the only thing that's holding us back is our own mindset, is our own spiritual connection, is our own ability to step off of that ledge and take one step and know that we're going to be caught, because our times will allow us to be caught. Not in the
Yes.
way that my mother or her mother or your grandmother's times did not allow for.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So here's another question for you. How do you foresee your kids, like them being as parents, and how will it be for them? I mean, I just feel like times are changing so rapidly nowadays. And it's like I see this evolution of mother right now, and mothers are not defined to how they used to be. So I wonder what it's going to be like for them when they're adults. What's a
It's such
mother going to be like then?
Well, right. I mean, I think it's such an interesting question. I think the one thing that hasn't changed in our times, like the one thing that hasn't changed is like, we have all been born into this world knowing one thing to be true, is that love is at the foundation of everything.
It
Everything
is.
else has been a
It really is.
everything else has been a human-made construct. Money,
Hmm.
work,
Yeah.
going to work, the economy, all of that was made up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's just made up by humans.
Yeah,
And
totally.
the crazy thing is that we put so much emphasis on the things that have just been somebody else's dream. Adrienne Marie Brown talks about that all the time, that these are just other people's dreams. But the
Yeah.
truth, the thing that, if you're born on Mars, your thing would be like, love is at the core of everything.
Yes.
So what I know is that my children will learn and know that love is something that's very important at the foundation of what we do. And if we make decisions from that place, everything's going to be okay. I wanted to say something about that, but I forgot what I was going to say. Give me 1 second. So one of the things that I teach my children is like, and this has been a very conscious decision for both me and my husband, is that I don't care. I'm not going to teach you about the importance of finding your purpose. It's not about just like finding your purpose. What I care about for my kids is that they're able to explore their curiosities, because that's a very different thing.
I love that.
Because
Yeah.
the things that we're curious about help us get closer and closer to the things that we really enjoy doing. And by holding that, that curiosity,
Yeah.
it allows us to step gently into something. We don't necessarily need to always like put our house up for sale and, remortgage our home in order to go explore these like big, huge things. Like, if I'm going to start my business, I'm going to have to remortgage my home. But if I like stay curious to something, I just like try something, and I'm just curious if that's going to be for me. And I can put my foot into that and try that out. That's a very different experience. So it
Yeah.
allows us to try things on. If we don't like it, we can take it off afterwards.
Sure.
It allows wonder to show up and emerge. And so I think that, that those are the things that I hope for my children, that they parent from that place, that love is always at the center of what we do, and that to always remain curious. And I hope that those two teachings will allow them to see the world and be in the world in a very different way.
I love this. I have to write this down. Always remain curious.
Mm-hmm.
How has curiosity helped you in your life?
Such a good question. I think so. I was lucky enough to be raised in I was raised in the country, so I had a lot of freedom to be able to be immersed in nature. So my days were filled of like exploring outside and catching minnows from the ditch and climbing trees and running through the woods and building forts and really being outside. And I think what that really taught me is that the world is a safe place. So I was lucky enough I really believe that at my core, and I can't help it. Like, I really believe the world at its essence is a safe place, and it's an okay place. And so from there, I feel comfortable enough. I feel safe enough. I feel okay enough to go out and try things on that I know it's not going to be the end of the world if it doesn't work. Because I always ask myself, like, if I try this thing, what's the worst thing that's going to happen to me? Sure. Like, what is the absolute worst thing that's going to happen to me? And I'm like, I'm going to go have to live with my mother. And I'm like, can I accept that risk? Can I accept that thing? Like, if I go, if I go and do this business adventure, it doesn't work. God forbid it doesn't work and I have to sell my home. That's never going to happen. But the worst thing that's ever going to happen is I'm going to have to live with my mom. And I'm like, can I accept that? I'm like, that's going to suck, but sure, I can do that. And so I think to answer your question, what keeps me curious is that just I just try things on and see if it fits. And if not, I'm just going to leave it and try something else. And that's what I mean.
Try things on and see if it fits. Man, you've got some good ones.
Thank you. I think that, I don't know, what about for you? Like, how do you remain curious? Like, I'd love to hear from you about that.
This podcast keeps me curious because I interview with so many different people with so many different types of things going on in their life and experiences. So I keep asking questions, and just the questions keep me curious and they keep me expanding my mind. So I think curiosity allows me to keep expanding, and that's just what keeps my doors opening for me. It's really beautiful. You said something really important too. You said that what I found that was really important in the stability of your question was the fact that you said that you remaining curious as a child allowed you to trust that you were safe. And one of the most important things for people to really succeed in life, and succeed meaning trust themselves and their body, is by feeling safe. And that's actually one of an incredible spiritual mantra to tell your first chakra, which is your root chakra. If you constantly tell yourself, I'm safe, I'm grounded, that grounds you. And it sounds like you already had a really great foundation towards an alignment to your purpose, which is what you're doing right now, and just going out there being curious and finding answers to keep expanding. I think that if people found ways to ground themselves the way that you did with nature, and that is really one of the most beautiful, powerful way to get yourself dynamic and out of a shell and into an exploratory, visionary part of yourself. That's really where the alignment happens. Whenever you become a visionary, that's where you become creative and doors open for you.
Totally. Yeah. It's such a beautiful summary of that. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yes, I'm really glad that you had that opportunity. And your kids, I imagine, have the opportunity to be creative and expansive and curious as well.
100%. Like, that's the one thing that I really want to teach them is that, have the willingness to step outside the guardrails of the status quo. Like, have the willingness just to try it on. The interesting thing, I love the conversation about status quo because it's in I kind of consider this the status quo like a highway. It's like where everybody is. It's like the safe place. It's like where our friends are hanging out. It's like where our jobs are. It's where people are relying on us. It's like the place that's like the highway's like safe. There's no road. There's no potholes. You can go pretty fast. You can get to where you want to go. There's all the people are doing that, going down the highway. And to step outside the guardrails of that and to go down these winding countryside roads, which is what you do when you start your own business, or you are willing to try something that's just not necessarily what we've been taught to do.
Yeah.
It's a scary experience because we leave the safety of those guardrails, right? Yeah. But the thing that I always remind myself is that there's always easy to step back on the highway again if I have to.
Absolutely.
It's easy. Every map out there is going to tell me how to get back on the highway. If I need to jump back in, I promise you it's going to be easy enough to get back in to the things that we know and the thing that brings us safety. It's never far away. So finding the courage is to take one step out and then the other step out. And that's how that safety gets developed. That's how that safety goes. Like it's one step in front of the other. It's like, it's that willingness to be curious and curious enough to take the one step.
Yeah.
Because usually for so many of us, we've
Curious enough to take. I'm telling you, you have some good ones.
When my filters are off, I can just like speak from like, you know, my heart, you know, when I'm not like, I feel like you're, I feel so comfortable with you.
Thank you.
What was I going to say about that though? That
curious enough to take the first step, the next step.
Yeah.
On that highway.
Yeah. I don't remember. It'll come back to me. Some rant talking about the status quo and just like how important it is, I think. The reason why I think status quo is an important conversation is because I think it's really important for us to be intentional with our lives. Like I was talking about this before, instead of life choosing us, instead of, you know, our cultural narrative telling us how to live our life, if you stop for a second and ask, like, does that fit me? Like, do I really want to be doing the latest fad? Do I really want to be eating, you know, the latest health craze? Do I really want to be watching Netflix all the time? Like all of the things that kind of our cultural narrative has us thinking and doing. Mm-hmm. If you can stop for a moment and be like, hold on, does that fit for me? It opens, you have like a 1 second window to be like, okay, what is it that I do want for my life? How do I want my life to feel? And these are the things, this is why I work with moms. This is why I care so much about it. Because it's like, it's building an intentional life. And sometimes to build an intentional life, you have to be willing to step outside the guardrails. And it's a scary place to go.
Oh, yes, it is. I love it so much. Yeah. Amy, I love your energy. How can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find you?
Yeah, totally. So the best place to find me is I spend a lot of my time on Instagram. So if you could hook my Instagram handle up, that would be super great.
Yeah, and what's your Instagram? I'm gonna follow you right now too when we get on.
Okay, awesome. So it's my Instagram handle is at Amy Dehne. So my name's spelled weird, as you know. It's AMI DEHNE. Maybe you can link it up in the show notes. And then to find out more information about the Wolf Pack, like if you are an entrepreneur yourself and you're like tired or you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, you know, if you like are just sitting on the sidelines and you're considering starting a business, or you're already running a side hustle, or you're a solopreneur who's like knee deep in building your business, then I really encourage you to consider come joining me in the Wolf Pack. It's for those women that don't want to do business alone. And you know, I just want to say one thing about that according to CEO magazine, the biggest killer of small business success isn't actually funding or knowledge, it's actually isolation. So not having to do their business by themselves. And so you can find out more information about how to join the Wolf Pack at my Instagram handle.
You hear that? Busy mothers waiting for an awesome, energetic connection where you want to be creative with Amy Dehne. Become part of the Wolf Pack and follow her on Instagram at Amy Dehne. And you said you also have a Facebook group?
Yeah, you can link it up also through my Instagram handles. All there, like one click, boom, you can find it all.
Amy, thanks so much for sharing your love, light, and your energy. I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and thank you for lighting me up as well.
Thank you, Lino.
Thank you so much. Take care now. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to A Little Less Fear podcast. You know, I keep going because of all of you, all of the viewers, the supporters, the listeners, the followers, the subscribers, the feedback, the comments that I get. I'm just really grateful to be where I'm at and to be able to bring all these people here on this platform to motivate the world. It motivates me to keep going. It motivates me. It lights me up to keep going and going and going. And because of that, my website's also going strong. I've created an incredible resource page for all kinds of people. Anybody needing support of any kind, please check out my website at www.alittlelessfear.com. And I've also launched freelance poetry for businesses, for marketing, for people that need something creative. Check it out. Check it out. It's fun. There's video poetry. It's visual poetry. And if you have any other questions for me, you can also email me at littlelessfear@gmail.com. Thank you so much, everybody. I love you all, and just a million thanks. Have you heard the old saying, you must love yourself before you can love anyone else? People often share that saying as the ultimate friendship and relationship advice, but they don't provide any guidance on how to love yourself. And it leaves us feeling either defensive, like it was only our fault that our friendships and relationships failed, or it leaves us with more questions than answers. How do I love myself? What are the steps? Where do I get started? That's why I want to invite you to a 3-day virtual conference, Love Yourself First, How to Develop Supportive Friendships and Meaningful Relationships. The conference takes place February 10th through February 12th, 2023. And at this virtual conference, you'll learn the secrets to loving yourself so that you can create lasting connections that will enrich your life. Tickets are now on sale. If you use my promo code LessFearSpecial, LessFearSpecial, on or before Friday, December 16, 2022, you'll receive exclusive access to special hidden tickets. And these tickets are only available with my promo code. If you buy your tickets after December 16th, use the promo code LessFear20, LessFear20. You'll receive a 20% discount. 20% is good, but it's not as amazing as the special hidden ticket prices. So get your tickets sooner rather than later. Also, because we know you'll want to share the love with a friend, if you buy 2 tickets in a single transaction, you'll also receive a 50% discount on the second ticket. If your friendships and relationships are missing the joy, affection, and the genuine conversation that you deeply desire, then you need to get your tickets for the 3-day Love Yourself First conference for February 2023. Reserve your space by going to https://alwaysloveyourselffirst.eventbrite.com. And don't forget to use the promo code LessFearSpecial. Once again, get your tickets at https://alwaysloveyourselffirst.eventbrite.com and use promo code LessFearSpecial before December 16th to get your special promo tickets. I will be speaking on the topic of affection. And I can't wait because I love affection and this is going to change your life. I really look forward to meeting all of you and to being of support. Thank you so much.